and welcome to another episode of Kota Uda. With me today, my special guest, Maria Hizbullah, and her father, Hejaaz Hizbullah. Maria and Hejaaz, it is lovely to have you in the studio
Thank you for having us
with us. Thank you so much for coming in. And also to Maram. Yeah, lovely that we can have this family with us in the studio right now. Actually, are you leaving us? Okay, she'll be back. Let me just tell you a little bit about Hejaaz, as if you don't know most of the story already, but for those of you who are unfamiliar with his story, I'll just very briefly talk about it, and then with our conversation, we'll be able to add more detail to what is going on. So Hejaaz Hizbullah really came to the general public's notice 2 years ago when he was arrested and detained under the Prevention of Terrorism Act for being associated with key perpetrators in the Easter Sunday attacks. And you know, while we're sitting having this conversation, today is actually the 3rd anniversary of the Easter Sunday attacks, and that makes this conversation all the more significant and meaningful for me. Hejaaz was released in February this year after 22 months of being detained without charge. And over the next hour or so, I'm just going to ask him to share his views and his opinions on a few topics, and also to share something about what life has been like for him for the past 2 years. But let's go back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of you suddenly came into the public's notice in 2020, but really you'd been doing a lot of work before that. So you had been appearing on behalf of the Muslim community. Can you tell me a little bit about what you were doing? What kind of work were you involved in?
Thank you, Tracy, thank you for having me, Maria and Maram, in your studio today. And as you pointed out, today is the 3rd anniversary of the third year of the Easter Sunday bombing. So I'm happy as well as sad.
Yeah.
Happy to be here to talk about things associated with it.
Yeah.
But also sad that we had to go through that very sad and traumatic experience.
Yes.
Not just and Easter Sunday did not affect only the Catholic community. It affected everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. It affected us as a nation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for having me. About my work, in 2012, I started my private practice as a lawyer.
Yeah.
Before that, I was a state counsel in the Attorney General's department.
Right.
And if you go back, and I'm sure you remember, 2012 was the beginning of a lot of hate against Muslims.
Yeah.
We saw the emergence of mainly the Budubala Sena.
That's right.
And a lot of other groups that emerged.
Yeah.
And a result of all of this was we had a lot of hate incidents.
Oh goodness, yes. I mean, I think 2012 just started a level of escalation. There's Alutgama in 2014, yes, for instance.
Yes. But more than Alutgama, there were, I mean, Alutgama were the big things, but there were a lot of little small things. Like, for example, a Muslim doctor doing her rounds in the hospital gets her hijab ripped off. A shop in some town gets looted, attacked, Muslim businesses getting attacked, and this was going on. A lot of hate speech. People also at that time, the community did not have confidence in law enforcement and the police being able to deliver on some of their complaints. So we started in 2012. So this was going on, and one thing I did realize even at that time was that if there is a continued sense of frustration and hopelessness, people are going to become violent. Muslims are going to become violent, and we are going to go down the path of radicalization. So to avoid that, in 2012, I started with two other colleagues, started a group called Campaign for Justice.
Right.
So we had we had a telephone call line where people affected by hate incidents or hate speech could make complaints, and then we took it up with the police, and we had reports and monitors. That's where I started my work in 2012.
Okay. So defending human rights, essentially.
Yes.
And then in 2018, again, you were involved in a very high-profile case. Could you just elaborate on that a little?
In 2018, we had the famous constitutional coup, where overnight the then Prime Minister, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, was removed, and Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa, the current Prime Minister, was appointed the Prime Minister. And then there was a question of whether who has the majority in Parliament. And then, with all that was going on, the President decided to dissolve Parliament and call for general elections. Parliamentary elections. So, Professor Hool, my client, was at that time a member of the Elections Commission.
Right.
And he found it going against his conscience to function as an elections commissioner in an election which he thought was patently illegal, and and later on the Supreme Court ruled it was illegal.
Yeah.
So I appeared for him. In the Supreme Court, and and we were successful, and the court held that the dissolution was illegal, and also that the prorogation of Parliament was illegal. And so that's history. Yeah.
Okay. Before we go on, I'm just listening to Maria off there, and I think that I, as well as all your sort of well-wishers, want to know, I think a question we all want to know is, what did it feel like to hold her for the first time and meet her for the first time?
I first held her a few days after she was born, at the CID.
Okay.
For about 5 minutes. That was sad. That was a sad. I was because I didn't know when this was going to end, and actually people were telling me that next time you're going to see her or hold her is when she gets her driving license.
Oh my goodness.
And but then lots of things happen, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
I was released in February, and the day I was released, when I got home, it was late in the night. She was asleep.
Yeah.
Next day morning, I got up, I went downstairs to feed the cat, something that I was doing before I was arrested.
Right.
And then when I was feeding the cat, she walked down, and she came down to where we were feeding the cat, and then we bonded. So it's a difficult question to answer. How did you feel? It was amazing. Amazing sense of a new beginning. Yeah. So that's I think the closest I can put it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, fair enough. And she looks like you are all just having a really wonderful, warm time together. It must be such a relief.
Yes.
I think in this current atmosphere, with the turn of events of the last 3 weeks, we have been seeing the judiciary and the different courts kind of standing up more, haven't we? Which is something perhaps that we haven't seen since about 2018.
I don't want to comment.
That's my opinion.
Judges and lawyers are doing an excellent job.
Yes.
They are doing an exemplary job. And a few things do fall through the system, and we do have a few bad examples which are highly talked about. But the overwhelming story, I mean the canvas that we see is a beautiful painting, and there are few colors here and there that have gone out of place.
Yeah.
But the picture is beautiful, and that's something that a lot of people don't know, and that's something that we need to talk about also.
All right.
The amount of sacrifice and commitment in which the legal system operates to keep the country where it is now.
Yeah.
Right. Because we are all talking about a protest movement and what's going on.
Yes.
But the fact that people are able to come out on the streets and say the things they are saying, chant the slogans they are chanting, is a result of what judges and lawyers have been, the judgments in Supreme Courts throughout the years.
Okay.
So we are enjoying the benefits of that.
Right.
So,
all right. So carrying on with this kind of optimism, this April, I don't know if you saw it, but I saw a lot of people, in addition to saying Happy New Year, also saying Happy New Country, right? Now, in light of that, and in that sort of optimistic vein, what kind of a Sri Lanka would you like your little Maria to grow up in?
One thing I'd like her to, the country that I'd like her to grow up is in a country where your identity, ethnicity, religion should not really matter.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Even if it does, it ought to be celebrated. I think we need to celebrate our diversity,
yeah,
rather than try to fit everybody into one sort of model. Accept that there are different people with different ideas, different religions, different cultures, different languages, and celebrate that fact.
Yeah. There's strength in diversity.
Yeah, and that's the kind of country that I'd like her to grow up in, and also a country that has opportunities for all. Opportunities for that you can be who you want to be employed or pursue a profession or a vocation, without having too many obstacles for which you're not responsible for. Like, to whom was I born to?
Yeah.
Where was I born?
Yes.
Which class? Which economic background?
Yeah.
That should not matter. What should only matter is, am I good at what I'm doing?
Yeah.
That's all that should matter.
Sure.
So that's the kind of Sri Lanka that I'd like to see her.
Here's a scenario, and I'm going to read it to you because it's kind of long, right? Now, in a previous interview, Dr. Gehan Gunathilaka said that in order to pass a resolution with a 2/3 majority, 150 votes are needed, right? That means, in addition to the opposition and the MPs that are positioning themselves as independent, there needs to be at least about another 30 MPs from within the SLPP, the way it is right now, actually backing the resolution, right? So it seems to me that it is in all our interest, like irregardless of party politics. It doesn't mean that we have to sit and yell at each other about which party we're supporting. Irregardless of that, I feel that a resolution such as abolishing the executive presidency is in the interest of all of us, irrespective of which party you support. And it would seem to me then that, say, people who voted for the SLPP would have to put a lot of pressure on their elected representatives to pass something. Right? Now, am I completely off my rocker? Right? Are we more likely to see that mythic Monera flying machine than we are likely to see the idea of national consensus? I don't know if that's the right word, you can correct me. But are we able, as a nation, what do you think? Despite party politics, could we come together to say, enough with this executive presidency? What's your opinion on that?
Lot of the things that are happening right now were unimaginable.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that I don't think we'll see the Monera flying.
Yeah.
But you never know, right? And what we are seeing is a generation experimenting with democracy and what they can do and what they can achieve.
Yeah.
And already, as we know, the government and the opposition have come not only to the point of agreeing to abolish executive presidency, but also setting out, promising that they are going to table in Parliament the reform proposals in black and white.
Yes.
So we made that progress.
Okay.
In December,
there is something to be hopeful about.
and I think yeah. So we need to so we need to continue these conversations and talking about these things, and that's important. And we will. I think that something might happen, and I feel I'm very positive about it.
Okay. I mean, when you do put it in that light, it is encouraging. I guess there is also that mindset in us to just always go, oh my gosh, what is happening today? What is the new thing? But it, it does take a fresh voice or a fresh pair of eyes to say, no, actually, there are these small rays of hope.
Yeah. So in December 2021, nobody was talking about abolishing the executive presidency.
No.
But April 2022, both the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition have both made statements in Parliament. A reform bill to abolish executive presidency, or the 21st Amendment, is coming and coming very soon.
Yes. And that,
So there is hope.
There is hope.
There is hope.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep your chin up. And on a final note, why should the executive presidency be abolished? And how do you think that abolition will affect future generations in Sri Lanka?
We've been talking about abolishing the executive presidency from the time it was instituted.
Yes, we sure have.
So, if you're asking me why should it be abolished, there are lots of examples about why, because lots of excesses, there are lots of examples of abuse of power have taken place, and not just one president. It has been the case. We can point this out to every president who has come along.
Pretty much, yeah.
And there's lots of research that's being done, and one thing we know is countries flourish not when they rely on one person, but when they rely on institutions. And that is what we need to work on. And the 19th Amendment was not a great piece of work, but it was moving in the direction of having good, strong institutions. Now, when we went in 2018, when we had the constitutional coup, the president exercised his power, removed the prime minister, appoint the prime minister of his liking. First time in the history, the Supreme Court came and slammed it down.
Yes.
What was the law at that time? It was the 19th Amendment. And so we were seeing those the positive effects of strengthening institutions. The Supreme Court was very confident with itself. The Chief Justice was confident about what he was doing, and they felt very strong as an institution. So strengthening the Supreme Court, strengthening the judiciary, strengthening Parliament, and having a very strong executive, and that's the kind of
a workable solution
and strong institutions, and that's what we need to go on. That's what we need to work on. And having putting all our eggs in one individual and this executive president where one person can call the shots,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No.
I don't think it doesn't work, and we can see it has not worked for us.